market is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an excess. So they have to adapt in many ways, in types of birds they're growing, in terms of how they process them, in terms of packaging. All these things have to be changed. And in some cases, farm shops are doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So people actually, a lot of farms in the UK have a tendency to have a shop on their compound as you enter their farm,
Okay.
and selling from there, not just the eggs more than the chicken, because there are some strict regulations on selling chicken, but eggs go through farm shops, sometimes delivered.
Mm-hmm.
But we have our major egg producer in the area where I live. They sent us a message that you tell us when, and we will deliver whatever you need.
Okay, great.
So they are delivering too. So they have a van, they fill up the van with the eggs and go into an area and deliver and get paid. Or charge it, you give them your credit card and it goes straight. So no hands touching.
Okay.
So we're doing that. But I'll mention a few things that are going on just now.
Sure. I think today we are going to have a good discussion. So Aziz, now time is there. So thank you very much for joining us, and let me welcome all my respected viewers who are watching us on this Zoom. Today we are lucky that, as you all know, that we have started this series of online webinars, and this is the third session today we're going to have. We have Aziz Sakrani with us, who is a world-renowned global poultry consultant. He has been coming to Pakistan many years. So we are lucky we have him today on board. And today the topic of discussion is how this COVID-19 is impacting on the poultry operations. I'm sure all those who are watching, they're directly working with this segment, or they're indirectly attached with this profession. So we need to understand what is happening around, how people are countering this pandemic situation, and how they are making their operations smoothly running. So without taking further time, I welcome to Aziz Sakrani, and who is going to talk on the situation of the COVID-19 on the poultry operation. So Aziz, handing over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. And I hope that everybody is well and their families are well and self-isolating and staying safe. A lot of things. What I'm going to be saying, a lot of things are basic, and I'm sure some of you are already practicing it, but it doesn't help. It does help and doesn't hurt to repeat some of the things. But to start off, what I like to do is to probably tell you that there are some present situations that are occurring with the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that today we do not have mass testing. One, it is challenging, is we don't have the tests, sufficient tests, as well as the logistics are a problem, and practicality is also involved here. So the problem is going to be staying with us for some time, it seems. People think that it's going to carry on into the next year. One of the things that is very important is that we need to understand that there are people who may have virus and not showing any signs of the disease. So no symptoms whatsoever. So that's better for me. So no symptoms of any kind shown, but they are carriers and they can transmit the disease. So we have a global challenge. We are not the only ones. You're not the only ones. We are all in it together. But we are already seeing food shortages in many cases. Initially, the food shortages were induced by panic buying. but that is not the case anymore in the UK, in other countries, in Europe, the US. Supermarkets are controlling things. People are not able to go and buy things just as they used to be. Last time I went to a supermarket with my wife, they said only one member of the family, a household, can enter the supermarket. So one at a time, keeping 2 meters gap between individuals. So one of the things that we have to make sure as a food industry, to make sure that we do not have a shortage of the products that we are producing. It is an opportunity in a way for us to be able to supply the products, because we have a nutritious product. Both eggs and chickens are much liked by everybody, acceptable, and so on. Sorry, I have somebody here saying no, something. I have a message. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, I've been told not to share. Is that okay? How's that?
It's better as is now.
Okay. Okay, that's great. All right, so we have to make sure that we provide nutritious food and healthy food without hampering any supply. So what do we do? Okay, let's look at the fallout that has been this pandemic is causing to the poultry industry globally. And some of it will be also in your area as well. We have been given instructions, we have been told, and it's been policed, that we stay at home, not to go out, only for essential buying and probably once a day. This is around the world, and this has resulted in food being consumed at home, and therefore a collapse or near collapse of restaurants and catering sector. Now you have to remember that the restaurant and catering sector in many Western countries represented somewhere around 40% of the total chicken and egg consumption in many countries. So it's hitting the industry quite hard. Also, we have to remember that there is movement restriction, and this is hitting the distribution and exports and imports. Although the governments around the world have been careful to draw up a list of exceptions for food producers, veterinarians, when the country's movement restrictions were first imposed, but the market is shrinking, is getting focused elsewhere. It's no longer the traditional market. All producers are now looking at months of difficulties or adapting to this change. The virus is spreading. Labor shortages are there. And this is apparent in all sectors of agriculture, in the UK, in the US. This is going to bite us and will impact on all the production and processing and also logistics. Producers normally who are selling to the restaurants and hotels find, things like basics, how to change these basic things like packaging, because when you sold to a restaurant, you packaged everything in a large amount, in a big case, but now you're selling it in single items or 2 or 3 items. So packaging has to be changed. That there seems to be a market imbalance, or as all the producers, particularly in the UK, I'm seeing, they're having to adapt and change the way that they are selling. Here is an example of a UK. Sometimes we are seeing some strangely packaged products appearing in the supermarket, suggesting that at least some of the products which were destined for the restaurants are now finding their way to retail or directly to people. And to overcome packaging, some small groceries are now selling eggs in burger boxes, hamburger boxes. So there are too many of them around because nobody's buying hamburgers from outlets. Home deliveries of groceries as well as prepared food is becoming common. We have lots of companies starting up as a delivery system that cook the food and deliver it wherever required. In UK, a large integration, Moy Park, they said, and I'm quoting them, there has been a noticeable increase in grocery sales as people practice social distances and self-isolating. This has resulted in higher demand for chicken produced, with it opportunities in the sector to meet this demand. So our opportunities are now directly to the consumer, to the home deliveries. In US, producers have to adapt. Broilers produced for catering required a target carcass of 4+ kilos. Consumers don't want big chicken like that. They want somewhere around 2 kilos. We have to adapt our production systems. So that is the background on how we need to handle this. I think it is important for us to also keep our employees safe and prevent the spread of the virus. So there are some guidelines, some suggestions which are being used around the world in various agricultural operations, and in particularly in poultry. Certainly, we have said that all employees must stay home if they feel unwell and inform their manager or supervisor, who will then need to report to the authorities of that country so that it gets all official. It is very important that we remove suspected infected employees from the workforce. Sometimes people are not showing any symptoms. And if they've got a problem at home, it is better that they stay at home as well for 7 to 14 days. A prompt isolation of asymptomatic shedders, investigation of their close relatives' contacts will help to reduce this transmission. But what is important is that we only keep the most essential people working. Don't have too many people coming in. Keep those who are only required to work there. And if the people have to stay home, either because they are ill or because we have asked them to stay, we really have to make sure that we do not impose any penalties or threats of suspensions on them. Employment regulations in many countries consider that many local schools and districts are also suspending classes. So if people are staying home, their children will be at home. There is an added problem there. So this needs to be taken into account. But most important for the poultry companies is that we need to recognize who the key workers are, who are the key supervisors, and who has to be quarantined. Make sure that we do not have cross-contamination. And this can happen in the hatchery, on the farm, in the processing plant. We need to make sure that we have a contingency plan for all complexes we have. We should identify workers that can be easily transferred. If somebody got sick, You don't want to have that gap there. You want to be able to find somebody to take their place. Otherwise, we will have a problem. Necessary that we maintain all our schedules of flocks, placement of flocks, vaccination procedures at the right time, the right age. And because the transport and warehouse is impacted, we need to make sure that we've got all the inventories are there. You know, the critical items, whatever it is, vaccines, feed additives, raw materials, we need to reevaluate and make sure that we've got enough supply to fill our orders. Otherwise, we might be running short. The poultry industry will be vulnerable to introduction and dissemination of the infection among employees in the processing plants, hatcheries, farms, feed mills that involve interaction among employees. In most countries, there is guidance from health authorities, but we need to employ in our operations regular hand washing, temperature screening, and counseling for those who may be potentially infected or are going through difficult times. In processing plant, application of personal hygiene measures, as well as keeping 2 meters apart between individuals, are the only available option we have. We don't have any other option, guys. It is hard to be optimistic. We are in middle of April. But the egg and chicken industry around the world has endured many challenges in the past. There is hope that the health of the nation and the nations and its economies will soon be restored. It may take time. We must, above all, make not the same mistakes we have made before. As soon as we are over this, do not start expanding very quickly. After recovery, expansion has to be very, very careful. Otherwise, you will flood the market and you will go through the same situation again. And I want to show you one slide. Well, maybe not show you the slide, but the latest trend in China, because they are supposed to be over the problem, although there are some question marks on that. What is happening there? If we are to take that as an example of recovery, COVID-19 epidemic in China has changed attitudes towards